the over-sexualization of women in comic books, and how they are generally portrayed in comic books themselves. And this is a review of mostly mainstream comic books such as Marvel and DC, because they're the more accessible to the general public. So we start out with just some generalized, this is Golden Age Wonder Woman, the New 52, Red Hood and the Outlaws, and then Fantastic Four with the Invisible Woman. And the issue with women in comic books nowadays is revealing outfits, that they're biologically incorrect breasts versus waist size versus thigh and leg size, the outright pandering for the male gaze, women's bodies are usually hypersexual, and even how they're portrayed in their attitude is hypersexual. So this is an issue for women because when they're trying to get into comic books, they feel alienated because they're seeing all these ladies who do not portray them. Identification within comic books is one of the main issues because you have to ask yourself, what does this have to do with me? How can I relate to this character? How do I become interested in this book? And again, women become alienated with the outright look of female superheroes, so they just don't pick up comic books. Some publishers have realized this and create strong female characters, whereas other publishers such as DC and Marvel kind of stick to their main market, which is 18 to 34-year-old males. This starts out in the Golden Age, which is the 1930s and 1950s. Most of the women are portrayed as damsels in distress during this age. You can see in almost every cover that there's a lady tied up and the man's trying to save her. They're portrayed as career girls, damsels in distress, and perky teenagers. You can see this in Archie as well, because Archie comes in at this time. And the prominent females of this time for superhero characters is a really small list compared to male characters. And you'll see this grow, but still it's compared to male characters virtually non-existent. During the Silver Age, you can see the more sexualized nature of the bodies themselves, the more revealing outfits. And then within the comic book, they're getting a little bit more scandalous and trying to portray women as, what they are. They're sex tools for men. And during the Silver Age, Marvel didn't have one female superhero that wasn't a supporting character. Like Invisible Woman was to the Fantastic Four, Batgirl was to Batman. There wasn't one solo female superhero character. Again, portrayed as just career girls, the femme fatales, the women who are women who kind of are trying to get men to do what they want using their sex, and then romance stories here. The list grows for prominent female characters, but still almost all of them are sexualized in their outfit nature and then their body type. Big Barda, one of the most prominent female characters for me during this time, is even sexualized, but she has a very strong feminist nature, and she's a very strong female character herself, which leads to the question, would you take the sexualization of women versus as long as they are strong female characters themselves? The Bronze Age is the first introduction of Marvel solo female characters. You get the Cat then, but you also get Power Girl from All-Star Comics 58, and Power Girl is Superman's cousin, and it's the introduction of her chest window, which is blatantly there for pandering for the male gaze.
Did you invent that term?
Chest window? I think so. I don't know how they...
That's very good.
You also get introduction of more female characters, but still, most of these are connected to male characters, like Batgirl and Supergirl and She-Hulk are all connected to male characters. Then you get the modern times, and this is kind of where it turns from bad to worse. From 1986 to the current, which I'll get to current later, you can see the development of more sexualization. This is Big Barda. She's from the West Coast Avengers. She's a supermodel in her natural form, but whenever she develops her superpowers, she turns into a very obese, strong, independent woman, kind of saying that if you're pretty, you can't be intellectual and strong at the same time. And then you get the introduction of the sensational She-Hulk. And She-Hulk, in this issue, was portrayed almost completely naked throughout the whole first 7 pages. She's a lawyer, she's independent, she's strong, but due to a joke that she made in her previous issue, she was subjected to skipping rope naked. This is her skipping rope naked. And later you find out that she was wearing a really teeny weeny bikini, but it doesn't really, help the purpose of it. And in the same issue, she is shown showering, talking to 2 male characters, like introducing themselves. And this is current stuff. This is things that you would find on the shelf today. Just the blatant arched back is one of the main poses for women nowadays because it situates the breasts and the butt. I don't know why Wonder Woman's boobs are all round, but it freaks me out a bit. This is part of the New 52, and this is an all-female cast book, but yet they are still super sexualized. And this book even is kind of marketed towards women, but you can still see that they don't want to let go of the male gaze. And this is mostly a common problem for superhero comic books, is the over-sexualization, just program out with sexualized art in it. If you go into any of the literature books that portray females, kind of equalistically. This is a current issue that came out 2 weeks ago, and you can see her Miss Marvel's teeny waist and large breasts and big thighs. And then this is the revamp of Power Girl's chest window. She says that it's there because she can't find a symbol to hold on to, like Superman symbol, so she just leaves it blank. But we're not really sure if, that's what Power Girl would say at that point, or if that's what the writer of Power Girl would say at that point. This is Harley Quinn, which is one of the basic, Joker, Batman villains, and she's just hypersexualized for no reason at this point. And the ideal male superhero bodies will always focus on strength, fitness, while as female superhero bodies will always focus on either sexiness or vulnerability, never really strength. And this is Starfire and Red Hood and Outlaws. And then this is the Star Sapphires, which is a Green Lantern kind of affiliated corps whose power is kind of over love. And even in the language of comic books, you can see the sexualized nature and the gender stereotyping. Because in their oath, they talk about love, and love conquers all, and because we're the Star Sapphires, we're women, and we conquer with love. Brandon Brown's a comic book artist and writer that most commonly writes porn for comic books, and he talks about how superhero comics do subjugate women and how seeing a female sexuality as an either-or thing rather than considering how female characters or readers might actually feel. And he talks about how superhero comics are acting as though they are for everybody, wherein there's kind of power fantasies sold as something else. And the new DCU 52. So DC rebooted their entire universe, and with this reboot, they went from having 12% women on the creative team to only 1% women. So not only are their subjugation of their characters, but women writers, artists, and editors themselves aren't working for DC. They announced that their target audience was 18 to 34-year-old males, so they're not even thinking about women at this point. And the 6 out of the 28 solo titles re-released star women. And 4 of those re-released titles that star women are hypersexualized on the outside and on the inside. It's Voodoo. And then Batwoman. She gets undressed and dressed 2 times in her first issue for no apparent reason. Catwoman is getting dressed at this point, but she ends up going from a powerful independent woman to a dirty chick who steals things. And in the end of her issue, she actually has intercourse with Batman. And then Wonder Woman, the most iconic female character in the DC verse, is in her sheet, and her partner or her person that she's protecting is constantly in her underwear, which might need to show vulnerability, but it's still not really necessary. And this is Dwayne McDuffie talking about Wonder Woman itself, and he says it's hard to make a character a person when they have to represent an entire demographic of people. That's why a lot of women have a hard time when they're reading Wonder Woman to connect with her. because she's representing the entire demographic of people, so she has to be the ultimate woman, which none of us are, so we don't connect with her. And a lot of people ask, why does this matter? Well, first, it creates unrealistic expectations for women and men go into the world from reading comic books thinking that women are just like this, when we're not, we're different, and excludes half the market, affects the way people view women, and then affects how especially young women view themselves. If I'm asked at the shop, what will be a good book for my 10-year-old daughter to read, I'm like, well, you have maybe 3 books out of 1,000 that she would read and feel powerful about herself, because a lot of the other ones just subjugate us. And then it makes women themselves feel like second-class readers. So not only sometimes are we treated as second-class citizens in the world, in our entertainment we're treated as second-class readers. In conclusion, this is how I feel about it. Writing about women doesn't have to mean marketing only to women, and the lack of female characters in mainstream comics is part of a very long-standing issue. With more and more females coming into the comic book market, there needs to be a change in how we are represented. A change that will only start once DC and Marvel recognize the issue and expand the industry to not only include more strong female characters, but also writers, artists, and editors. And then this is a list of female superhero characters in the Marvel DC verse, and male superhero characters in Marvel DC verse. Okay, any questions?
I feel like, as a comic book reader myself, I feel like that women never really got into the comic book industry in the first place because of this whole situation. Wonder Woman started out as a secretary for the Justice League at first. And it makes me wonder that if they had started putting more female characters in there who weren't, these things are like that big versus,
yeah.
If they started doing that, then women feel good, women feel good about themselves. I think it's a misconception that, like comic books, because it's just not something we're interested in. I feel like it's maybe, you don't feel good.
It became a really big niche market.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after World War II, when first superheroes were introduced, like females went to work in their male counterparts, like industry
mm-hmm.
jobs. So we didn't really get a chance to interact with superheroes as, other generations did and men did. So yeah, I think because of not only it going into a direct market where you can only get it through comic book shops themselves nowadays, it became a very, very niche market because of that. Like, if maybe they kept it to grocery stores and stuff for a longer period of time, I think females would have gotten into it better.
Yeah, and then had some kind of imagery that was appealing to us, that wasn't just
and then, both the Marvel and DC have really weird, strict hiring processes, so it's really hard for any type of female to break into the industry itself. And I think that's one of the main problems, is that we are not having very good representation within the industry, so we're not getting representation through the comic book.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I'm going to have something, right? So one of my jobs, as I see it, is to tell you guys what you've done so well and how you can expand. And if you ever take this to a national conference, which I recommend you do, or a regional conference, it's good. It's that good. A couple of the most original things you've said here is about that chest window. I mean, that if nobody said that before, it is perfect because it offers a way of seeing into this whole wretched industry as you depict it. Also, you used the phrase, they don't want to let go of the male gaze. That is a great phrase, a great way of talking about it. And if the demographic is 18 to 34-year-old males, and they're the ones with the buying power, they're the ones that have been spending historically, you can see why they wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
But the argument you need to make when you meet the industry reps is you're leaving this untapped market, this market untapped out here.
Yeah,
right?
and they've tried to tap the market, but they've tapped it poorly. Like, they made love comic books and relationship comic books and storytime love, and it's just horribly written, relationship comic books where they're trying to get the women back. Like, no, we like superheroes, just don't like looking at our own boobs half the time.
Women are victims of love in those feeble attempts. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a little time. Would you mind going back to Power Girl for a second here? because I want to make a point or just ask you if something about power control. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know either. This one?
Yeah. Yeah, the bottom, yes. So now, you focused on the anatomy. But what about the facial depiction here? Anybody? Go ahead, Heather.
Well, for me, reading Power Girl, because she's kind of a smartass, and she doesn't like to take guff, so...
She doesn't like what?
To take guff. Like, she doesn't like it when people... She knows that guy's staring at her boobs.
Okay.
And she's all like, I know you're staring at my boobs. Come on, look up here. But because of the creator and the artist and stuff like that, it's always accentuated.
Okay, so the half-lidded eyes are a kind of a contemptuous regard for those that she's speaking with?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other ways to read that? I mean, the mouth, look at the curvature of the mouth and the half-lidded eyes. I mean, is that all it is? It's like basically a facial finger that she's given these people? Okay. I just wondered, it looks like bedroom eyes, it looks like she's just, I don't know, maybe it's just my reading, but I think you could have it both ways. She's contemptuous of those looking at her, but she's also alluring in this way that we consider with bedroom eyes and all that stuff.
Yeah, so not only is like body structure itself, but their facial features and things that they would say are in a way sexualized. Yeah.
Not to mention no girl in their right mind actually wants their hair hanging in their face. They would have stopped, swiped their hair out of the way, and then started talking.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. That was very good, Heather, thank you.